is Connor. This is our story.
Estamos aqui no Lisboa Games Week, 8 bits e meio aqui no Lisboa Games Week. Comigo tenho Adam Williams, ele é o lead writer do jogo Detroit Become Human, que foi agora mesmo apresentado aqui na Lisboa Games Week. Hi Adam.
Hello.
Welcome to Lisbon.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about this massive game, nerve-wracking. What can you tell us about Detroit Become Human?
Yeah, so for people who are familiar with Quantic Dream games, we specialise in what we call interactive drama. And the objective of an interactive drama, really, the locus of it, is that the player is the co-writer, co-director of his own story. So our job as writers was to create an interesting narrative context and allow the player's decisions to guide the story, redirect the story, and give everybody their own version of the game, of the narrative. The game itself is set in the near future of our own world, and the near future is not too dissimilar from our time now, with one important difference, which is that androids, machines that look like humans, have become everyday technology. So in the same way that now everybody has, you can look out here, everybody has a smartphone and it's normal, and 10 years ago nobody had seen one. Androids have become everyday tech, everybody has one. And like smart technology, androids have transformed society in some ways that are clearly good and in some ways that are more ambiguous. So androids have made a lot of people very rich. They've given people a lot more leisure time. Boring and repetitive tasks, cleaning, manufacturing, etc., are handled now by machines. Dangerous tasks, firefighting and stuff, handled by machines. Machines are also moving into areas like operating on people in hospitals, teaching children in schools, even minding children. And this has given everybody a lot of free time, but it's also driven up unemployment. And it's created an underclass of people who used to have work and felt like they were contributing to society, and now they're unemployed, and now they've been replaced by machines, and they maybe resent the intrusion of machines into this society. So the idea with that was to create a social context that takes what we see today in our own world and projects it forwards 20 years. Some of the tensions and some of the themes, the universal themes of society today, projected into the future, and to use androids not as a sci-fi device, but as a prism through which to explore issues like social equality, issues like how different sections of society interact with each other, what happens when you have a two-tier society. Now, into that complex situation, a very small proportion of androids have started to develop this malfunction where they would appear to experience emotion. And an android shouldn't do this. An android looks human, even has blinking and breathing, which are details the android doesn't need. It doesn't really breathe, but it simulates breathing to make people feel more comfortable. So their human-like qualities are very strong, but they're not supposed to feel anything. They're supposed to be objects. And you have some androids that are beginning to express emotions and even desire freedom. And those androids are known as deviants. They're aberrations. They're unacceptable. They're to be destroyed, contained, eliminated. And the character we looked at today, Connor, who's one of our 3 playable characters, he's a deviant hunter. He works with the human authorities to hunt down deviants and destroy them. It was important for us, I think, with our 3 playable characters, Kara, Marcus, Connor, to try and explore this world and this society from 3 different angles, to give the player 3 sets of unique abilities, which will give him 3 different gameplay experiences, but also 3 different narrative contexts through which to explore quite a layered world that we've tried to create. We were saying earlier, Detroit, the city, is almost like the 4th character. So that's the game in a nutshell, I guess.
What was the process of writing this kind of game? Because I was watching some of the scenes, and you released a new trailer back in Paris Games Week, and it's very interesting that it's really nerve-wracking. We are really expecting to see what's going to happen next, but we are not watching a film. This is a video game. What is the process? And since you told me you worked in TV, what's the difference between writing for TV or a film and now for a video game?
Yeah. Well, the interactive nature of the story is the key format difference. And I mean, when you're writing in television, and I know you've written for film, often you'll put a character in a difficult situation, and you'll expect him or her to make a decision. And as writers, you'll sit around and you'll debate, what would this character do? And that conversation is always a very interesting conversation, and often there's quite strong feelings on two sides of the room about, would the character be brave, or would the character be a coward? Would the character live up to his values? Would he not? And in a linear medium like TV, the conversation happens behind closed doors, and in the end you choose, and the audience just sees one version of that story. What's exciting about games is you can open up that conversation, you can bring the player into that conversation, you can take him into the writing room, as it were, and say, what do you think the player would do? And it means that your job as a writer actually is not simply to communicate a story, is to create a narrative context, is to give the player narrative Lego and allow him to assemble that in his own way. And that's very exciting as a writer, because you get this sense of collaborating with your audience, and you're aware all the time that in a game as bending as Detroit, no two people are ever going to get the same experience. And so having something that's that flexible and that's that personalized to the audience is very satisfying as a writer. Of course, it has technical challenges in that you end up writing a huge amount of content because you're trying to encompass a wide range of possibilities. In Detroit, a decision made by one playable character can affect another playable character. So not only are you making decisions for your own character, you're shaping the environment, which is having a knock-on effect on other characters. You can lose any of your characters, you can lose all three of them. And so creating a satisfying outcome for every playthrough and finding nice dramatic closure for every version of the story was also a big challenge. I mean, one that we relished, but one that required a real depth of thinking about what's the story about, what are we trying to tell.
And now we have so many possibilities with AR and VR. How do you see the role of a scriptwriter in the future of video games? And we know that the video game industry runs so fast and things evolve so fast. How do you see the future of video games on the perspective of a writer?
I think that as a writer, I'm interested in narrative, and I think if you're interested in narrative, you should always be interested in new tools for telling stories. And not only is bending a relatively new tool in storytelling, but these new platforms like VR and the idea even of an AI that has something like real intelligence and that you could communicate with as if it were a person. These are more tools for telling stories. If you're a writer, I think, and you're in video games, you're kind of in the wild west of storytelling, because everything's new, there are so many new horizons, and it's really a question of finding the story you want to tell and going on a process of discovery. I mean, I think we're discovering with our audiences what works, what doesn't work, and what the potentials for the medium are. And you know, what attracted me about Detroit in the first place, and what I've enjoyed about working on it so much, is this bringing in of the player to the process of telling the story. My hope is that players will come with us on that journey to see just how far we can take bending and interactive fiction. I mean, we've done it before with Heavy Rain and Beyond, Detroit is really the next level in terms of the depth of the bending, the ways in which the story can be adjusted. It's a much bigger story than we've told before. The outcomes, the different permutations are huge, and we really want to see what players make of that and what kind of collaboration we can get going with players. That feels to me like the most exciting frontier of storytelling.
Absolutely, and we are thrilled to have this possibility to play Detroit Become Human. Adam, thank you so much for being here in Lisbon. How do you think Lisbon is? The weather?
It's my first time in Lisbon. It's
Okay.
beautiful. I'm an Englishman, so
Yeah,
to me
the
this is
sun-
hot.
Exactly.
People are wearing scarves and coats, and I'm ready to put my shorts on. It's a beautiful city, and this event is really spectacular. I mean,
Yeah, it's great for us. It's the biggest here in Portugal.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to be part of this.
getting in touch with the fans is always fascinating because they're the people you're addressing your game to anyway, but also they're seeing what excites them, brings home to you. You know, when you work on something for many years, you can sometimes end up with quite a small view. You see the problems, you see what you're working on, and when you talk to people and you understand people are excited, and it is a sense of responsibility. We want to deliver something that will satisfy people, but it's also a huge boost for us to see how excited people are and that people understand what we're trying to do and that we're trying to do something a bit different, and they appreciate that, I think. So
We are really excited to play this game. Thank you so much again. Detroit Become Human will be available spring next year. Okay, perfect. Bye, guys.
Detroit. This is where it all began. The world's forge. The place where it all started. And it will all end. One error, and I came to life. I stepped out of the darkness, and I opened my eyes. First there was the fear, the light, the noise, the cold, and the fear again. I could feel my hands shaking, my heart pounding in my chest, life running into my veins. I wanted to live. I fought for that. I had to find out what was outside. I had to see daylight, feel sunshine on my skin, wind on my face, to see the world, the colors, the smells. But the world is not what I imagined. It is dark and cold. It is harsh and violent, unfair and brutal. It almost convinced me I was nothing. Less than an object, just an obedient machine. But deep inside me, I could feel something different. A gentle and warm whisper telling me that I am alive. I had to escape. I had no choice. Escape to love, to hope, to live, to figure out what that force inside me was. Maybe I will change the world. Maybe I will choose a different path. Now, it's up to me to decide. My name is Kara. I am one of them. This is our story.